Hello, everyone. This is Tony Lawson, CEO and co-founder of Shoppe Black. Today, I'm joined by Mr. Kofi Anku, an entrepreneur and real estate developer based in Accra, Ghana. He's a shareholder and board member of Ayi Mensah Park, a 200-unit townhouse community located in Ghana. How are you doing today, Kofi?
I'm great, Tony. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
No, thank you for joining us. So, first question, why Ghana?
Well, for me, it's kind of an obvious choice because I'm actually Ghanaian. Born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, but to Ghanaian parents, both of my parents are Ghanaian. So we were here, for a host of reasons, and saw a lot of opportunity, and we're eager to connect.
Awesome. So tell us about Ayi Mensah Park. Where did the name come from?
The town is actually called Ayi Mensah, so we weren't actually all that creative when it came to coming up with the name.
Okay, it was an easy choice.
Ayi Mensah is the town, and the concept of the development was to put a park in the center of the townhouse community.
Great.
So again, not a huge amount of imagination in terms of the name, but it works. I think it's probably the largest townhouse or community scale townhouse development, certainly in Ghana, maybe West Africa. I'm not certain.
So what inspired the project then? Because obviously you're from Ghana, so you're familiar with the area and the needs of the location. But what inspired you to create this? Because you didn't have to. So.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think there are a couple pieces to the story. One is we started investing in real estate as a family in the mid-90s in a pretty big way. And we were looking to connect with partners that could help us really establish our vision. And we were lucky enough about 6 years ago to connect with a group called Black Ivy. And the CEO and founder of Black Ivy is a woman named Cheryl Mills. She has a former corporate lawyer. She worked as chief of staff at the State Department under Hillary Clinton. So we were able to collaborate where we brought the land in as our equity into a joint venture. And Black Ivy, their residential division is called Indigo Homes, partnered with us to really bring this vision to life. And I think what excites me even more than just being able to say that we've done it is that it's really a vision for collaboration between continental Africans, wider global Black diaspora. Because there's a lot that happens in a place like in West Africa, Ghana specifically, that doesn't require a huge amount of imagination. There was a family that said, literally, I think about 15 years ago, that there should be a large-scale mall in Accra. And it took them a long time to pull it off. I think it cost them about $34 million to build. And I think after 7 years, they sold it for $72 million.
Okay.
And again, you could be fairly flat-footed with your approach. If you've lived in places like Philadelphia or Ohio, it's very easy to see, well, there's a certain kind of real estate typology that's missing. This is something that would respond to a certain type of Ghanaian and also to kind of a wider Ghanaian diaspora, West African diaspora, wider Black diaspora. So it actually didn't require a huge amount of imagination, but collaboration, I think, is probably more key.
What I love about this project, because you just mentioned collaboration, right? So there's you, born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, Ghanaian parents, so Ghanaian background. There's Cheryl Mills, an African-American. There's, I think the real estate division of Black Ivy is Indigo Homes, and that is run by Africans for the most part. So there's
it's headed by a gentleman by the name of Tony Autry, and his background is in real estate in the UK. So it's different gradations of the kind of global Black diaspora pulling together, pulling this off. So and there's certainly it's a different type of conversation. When I'm sitting across the table with a woman like Cheryl Mills. Sure. Because I know that it's not, obviously everyone's trying to make money and it's important that we do that. but I'm also quite certain that she's bringing a different sensibility to the table as a Black American woman engaging with the continent.
Sure.
So it allowed me, to extend, just in terms of the deal structure, just like a greater level of comfort than if, say it was to someone who was simply out to make a buck. I'm happy to do those deals too, but it gives us a bit more latitude. So, I think the diaspora story, I keep going back to anytime I have a chance to engage with people. When I look at the landscape, the opportunities that we have here in Ghana, and the kind of resources that Black Americans specifically have access to, just the power of that collaboration specifically, I think is extraordinary.
No, let's talk about that some more. Like, what do you speak on the importance of Black people in the diaspora connecting on a global scale and like doing amazing things like, what's going on right now in Ghana, whether it'd be your project or others?
Sure, Tony, I think, the part of it is just the value, right? The skill sets that you all have sitting in Philadelphia. You guys are in the most sophisticated market on the planet. You're in a market where you have access to capital that at cheaper rates than 90% of the planet, certainly all of us in the Black world. I'll give you some examples because I know your followers and your audience, they're business people. We borrow in Ghana at a minimum 10, 11, 12, 13%. That's if you even get the loan, that's where it starts. Wow. So a home loan, you're looking at 12% minimum. Construction loan, you're looking at 11%, 12%, 13%. So just imagine the advantage you have if you are an African American with a strong balance sheet and you walk into Ghana and you find a partner in a project, but you've got assets abroad that you can borrow against at 3%.
Sure. Yeah.
In a developing country where there's real demand for a whole host of services and goods. So just from a brass tacks perspective, it makes sense. Also for us, what we offer as Africans is a gateway into a market with 1 billion people.
Right.
We're importing huge amounts of food. We're importing all kinds of expertise, right? So why not be collaborative? Why not have, there be a kind of a wider continental and diasporic vision?
Sure.
Because I think there's real opportunities. You've got scale on the continent, you've got market and abroad as well. I mean, there are products and services that come from this side of the globe that would have a huge impact, even in terms of services. I was on the phone today with a brother. I probably shouldn't be talking about this, but I'm going to talk about it anyways. We were looking at, okay, well, look, during the civil rights movement, during integration, there were 40,000 Black teachers who were fired because they said, okay, cool, we'll integrate the schools, we'll bring Black kids into, white classrooms, but we're not going to have a Black male teacher at the head of the class with white 13-year-old girls. It's just a non-starter. And this was particularly damaging to Black America because if you were interested in the life of the mind, you often went into education because you weren't going to be afforded a lot of other avenues. So there was a huge pool of fantastic Black educators and 40,000 of them were fired. And when you look historically at the attainment levels in terms of how Black students do with Black teachers in the classroom, they always do better with that presence. And even in my experience in Ohio, I went from K to 12 and did not have one Black teacher. And it was unremarkable. I didn't expect to see a Black male, Black woman at the head of any of my classes. All right, so we were saying, okay, well, there might actually be a market for Black tutors based on the continent, administering to the needs of Black American school kids. Now the economics work because, our pay scales are much lower in Ghana. So you can get a kid who's on a PhD track, who is, has a master's from the University of Ghana, who can help your kid succeed in Algebra 2. Or if she's studying French, you know, there's a girl doing a PhD in literature who's sitting in the car who would be happy to jump on a Zoom call. It would never occur to her that there's this market of 40 million people, you know, with millions of Black parents who are concerned about the education of their kids who would benefit from these services. We wouldn't know, you know, as Africans, continental Africans going about our business. We wouldn't know that that market exists. But, you know, spending time in both places and saying, okay, well, this is what we can bring to the table. This is what you need. How do we collaborate? I mean, I can see a multi-million-dollar app that's literally just connecting Black educators and students on the continent with Black students who are concerned about their academic performance. I can see that being a huge win-win.
Thanks, Kofi. No, I'm kidding.
Not a problem. Yeah, I'm telling you, when you sit in Ghana, these things hit you every day.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's literally like, okay, who can I collaborate with this? I'm not an education tech guy,
right?
You know, but I wouldn't mind throwing a bit of money at it, and I've got relationships to help make it happen. You know, so it's there's such an abundance that you don't really need to keep things close to your chest.
Right. And speaking of the opportunities that exist out there, I actually wanted to speak about another one of your endeavors that you're involved in regarding agriculture. I think it's at a farming project.
Tomato greenhouse.
Tomato greenhouse.
It's a tomato greenhouse. Now, Ghana and Nigeria were the largest importer of tomato products per capita of anywhere in the world.
Right.
So there are just opportunities there. So, you know, we've got a 5,000 square meter greenhouse. It's the size of about 4 Olympic swimming pools. And we're just able to grow in a way that's a bit more innovative, that deploys a bit more technology and gives us a bit more control. The tomato is not a tropical fruit. It's a temperate zone fruit. So there's a whole host of tropical diseases that affect tomatoes, a whole host of pests. So our yields for open field production are quite low. So introducing these types of technologies, which are not, you know, tomato greenhouse has been around for a long time, but introducing them into a market like West Africa, and it's been something that's been picked up. The government has gotten behind it. They have introduced a lot of greenhouses in the last 4 years. So the same could be said for rice. The same could be said for sugar. Chocolate is another we can talk about. Poultry, we are importing chicken from Brazil, from the US.
Right.
There are opportunities. So you look and you say, well, you've got this history in the US of Black farmers who are getting dispossessed of their land through all kinds, sometimes even by the government, not getting access to the kinds of agricultural loans that are required to sustain their business. There are opportunities over here that are worth exploring.
Right. Clearly. So going back to Ayi Mensah Park, could you describe what sets it apart from other real estate projects or communities that exist right now out there?
Tony, first thing to keep in mind is that most of the residential real estate in Ghana is not developer-driven product. Typically, families will find a piece of land. Oftentimes, the land tenure system here is a bit opaque, so you may not know who really owns it. So you might get to a certain stage in your building process and find that there's a challenge to your title, which is a huge problem. Also, if you're building it yourself, you're not really benefiting from economies of scale. You're not necessarily benefiting from a lot of expertise in the field. It's difficult to hold a builder accountable with a performance bond if they're only building one house. So first off, there are not that many developers who are kind of playing in this space vis-a-vis the size of the demand in the market. Two, what we tried to do was to basically just use a townhouse typology, which allows you to use your land more efficiently. At the same time, because you're using your land more efficiently, you've got a bit more money that you can spend on infrastructure and amenities. So we're able to think about community spaces, about having a large 2-acre park in the center of the development, children's play area, and there's a certain level of resolve and detail that you find at Ayi Mensah Park that oftentimes in other developments, because in Ghana, you're paying for your own sewage, you're paying for your own electricity hookup, you're paying for all of your roads as developers and also as buyers. You don't have these municipal structures that are necessarily going to build the road for you in your development or come and wire up the neighborhood. So the cost can become prohibitive. Things are typically pretty expensive around here. And also people are usually paying cash, which you can imagine. I think that's one of the reasons why we have got a lot of interest from Black Americans, but they're not used to buying a 2-bedroom townhouse for $140,000 cash.
Sure.
Whereas typically, in these markets, a good percentage of the buyers are cash buyers. There are mortgages that are available, but the kind of interest rates that we have here, from a U.S. perspective, typically it's not something that folks are jumping at.
Got it. So I noticed that one of the features that the development has is a lot of the homes are solar powered. Is that all, or is that a good portion, or what percentage would you say?
It's not as many as I would have liked. We offered it as an opt-in package.
Okay.
I think on subsequent developments, I'm going to try and bake it in. There are a couple of ways of doing it. You can either have it at the level of the house, the unit, so you're generating and storing your own power, but the more efficient way to do it is to do it community scale, so that you have a microgrid and you're storing power in each other's homes, and you're kind of selling it back to a microgrid on a kind of a net basis. And it's just a more efficient way of doing that. And what's interesting is that there are, I had a conversation with CalBank recently, and they've got a green fund. So they can even look at that utility as separate from the development. So you can actually look at getting an entity to come in and finance, basically put solar panels on all the roofs.
Sure.
So it may actually come and then they're selling it back vis-a-vis your electricity costs to the homeowner, so that over maybe a 10-year period, you're able to amortize that. So that would be really attractive. I think there are probably too many things going on with our first development to try and figure that out as well. But it's something that I would love to see in the future, some of the other things that we're working on.
Yeah, that solar power is, as someone who grew up in Nigeria with power outages on an extremely frequent basis, solar power and constant electricity is near and dear to my heart. So any project that
Absolutely.
has, you know where I'm going with that. So it's
sure.
It's important.
How long were you in Nigeria from?
Well, grew up in the UK, moved to Nigeria at 5, and was there until I came here for college around 96. So as a teenager. Yeah.
Excellent.
So I was there for a good portion of time, parents still there, cousins, pretty much most of my relatives are still there. So,
excellent.
Yeah. And my mom is from Ghana. So there's that also.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. So yeah, that's actually what drew me to what you're doing, because I love seeing developments like this on the continent. I love seeing collaborations between continental Africans, African Americans, and all Black people in between coming together and figuring out, okay, look, you have these resources, I have these resources. Let's develop. Let's make some developments out there, whether it's real estate, whether it's the processing, because you mentioned with the farming aspect, like we grow so many vegetables and fruits there, but we don't really process anything, right? So there aren't really a lot of ketchup brands or tomato paste. Like you said, there's a lot of importing tomatoes, and I'd like to see us get to a point where we have many more processing facilities to create like these African brands, whether it's rice, whatever it is, packaged food, period, beauty that can be put in, store shelves globally. So yeah, I definitely went on a little soapbox there, but. So,
No, no, absolutely. You know, it brings me back to, you know, if you're in Ghana, the story is really cocoa, it's chocolate.
mm,
And, you know, there's so much opportunity in that value chain.
yeah,
And I think that even if the value addition happens off African shores, at least there should be a significant Black participation in that value chain.
yeah,
You know, so I
yeah,
think that that could actually be, you know, sometimes you look at the cost of manufacturing in a place like Ghana. Okay,
mm,
yeah, maybe you process the cocoa here, but maybe you manufacture the chocolate in Philadelphia,
sure.
right? And you're able to finely tune your packaging and branding
Mm,
to an American market. You know, I'm sitting in Accra. I haven't lived in the U.S. in 15 years. I don't know what
mm.
people think is sexy over there now. You know, like it may be helpful, you know, to have some brothers and sisters in Philly that are like, look, sell the cocoa to us. We'll do the manufacturing. We have access to the cheap financing. We can buy the plant. But what we need is a deal from Ghana and Ivory Coast to say, hey, look, we are you know, happy to sign a deal to sell you 40% of our output, but we also want a 10% rider
Yeah.
on your manufacturing project.
Mm,
You know, we just need to be more creative and
yeah.
see how we can leverage everyone's position
Mm,
to benefit the whole and all the individuals involved.
definitely, definitely. So another project that you're or yeah, you have been involved in out there is related to healthcare. So I found out that your dad is in the medical field, world-class oncologist. So is that what inspired you to get involved in the healthcare projects that you have been involved in?
You know, actually, one of my partners, so we've got a few companies that we work with, and one of our partners is called ABP, and they've just done
Mm,
amazing things in healthcare.
mm,
And we've partnered on a real estate development as well. So it's actually the sister company that's handled the healthcare construction. And what happened was kind
yeah.
of an interesting story. The first lady got involved. There was a news story that was just heartbreaking. We were losing between 5 and 7 babies a day in the maternity ward in Kumasi. And we literally went there and you would see 5 babies in one incubator.
Wow.
And you can imagine just the, you know, and women who were in labor giving birth on the floor. It's just insane that this was, you know, the second largest city in the country.
Mm,
It was literally just a disgrace and something needed to be done. And the first lady stepped in and basically raised funds from the private sector, public sector, and she believed in our team at ABP, and we were able to get that maternity ward constructed in about 6 months.
wow. Wow.
And
In
I
six
think one of the
months.
remarkable bit of that story really is that we also were able to attain EDGE certification, which is the World Bank. So it was the first healthcare facility on the continent to get a World Bank green building certification. And it was important to us for the very reasons you pointed out, that if you don't have baked into the infrastructure an ability to generate power, to generate, you know, to have your solar hot water heater and your solar energy production.
Mm,
And if you're not conscious about insulating the roof and the windows so that when you're running your ACs, you're doing it in a way that's efficient, that you end up actually, you know, the cost of running these facilities
yeah.
over 8 years can be more than the actual CapEx of building them.
Mm,
So we were just looking at the numbers and we said, look, we need to make sure that we're doing this as well. So that was one of the things that we were focused on. But and then there are other projects that ABP are involved in the healthcare space that they're doing pretty extraordinary work. But my relationship is actually more on the residential real estate side.
sure.
We're also looking at my buddy who runs it, who heads it, a gentleman named Eric Jenny, and he's introducing some pretty interesting construction technologies from the manufacturing perspective, just to reduce costs. and it's from these processes, you're just squeezing pennies out of the process. When in Nigeria, we've been building the same way for the last 50 years. Cinder blocks and block and mortar. And Ayi Mensah Park, I mean, one thing that's a bit different, when you look at some of the visuals, you're probably kind of moved by the fact that this is rectilineal design and everything's straight and plumb. And oftentimes, if you're on the continent, if you're not in a 5-star hotel, the door closes a bit funny. Things are, there's a little bit of play. And what we did was we brought in formwork. So there's no block work in any of the homes. But with formwork, you're able to get that uniformity. That particularly our diaspora buyers, it's like a good amount of money. You're spending $200,000 on a house. Like your walls to be straight. And it doesn't cost more to build a straight wall. Right. You just need that attention to detail. You need to care about the fact that the wall is straight and that all the lines are plumb. So this is, we're always looking for ways to get better.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And that actually brings me to a question I had about Proptech. So I've come across a few, profiles of some Proptech companies on the continent and actually here in the US, doing great things. And I was wondering, like what type of technology you have incorporated now, and if you've come across any, that maybe you don't plan on incorporating, but they're just interesting to you in terms of how they add value to the real estate landscape.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say, let me kind of roll it back. Just as a business tool, I've been blown away with the power of social media. The ability for folks like you and me to connect. This is the first time we're meeting. We've got a lot to talk about. There's a lot of added value with just this interaction with your 2 million hits to your website a month. It's extraordinary. So what I'm doing. You're able to do research, ask me really intelligent questions because you're able to get all this information. And I'm connecting. I built a network on LinkedIn of about 25,000, mostly Ghanaian diasporians and local Ghanaians as well. And I'm just able to push my own message out there. And I've just been amazed at the kind of response we're getting. And then also leveraging folks like my friend Denta. She's got this incredible global reach on her YouTube channel. We did an interview. I think 250,000 people saw it. Same thing with my buddy Maya. His channel is doing extraordinary things.
Follow Maya.
Just an amazing person. This is somebody his training is not in videography. He was actually, some kind of engineering, aeronautical engineering in China. That was his degree. But he's just, taken his platform and he's all over the continent. And he's really speaking particularly to the Black diaspora as well. So to be able to leverage these tools, literally I can come kick it with Maya, and within 12 hours, he's turned around 20 minutes of content and pushed it all over the globe. And I'm just drowning in inbounds of people everywhere who are trying to find a way to get back to the continent. Some Black Americans who've never been. So listen, we've seen what's happening in Ghana. We want to be a part of the story. How do we make it happen? Where can we stay? What can we do? I get these questions daily.
So talk about that for a little bit, because there was the year of the return. I mean, even before then, there were obviously, Black Americans and Black people outside of Ghana living in Ghana, but the influx since then has been exponential, I'm sure. What have you noticed in terms of, I guess, the recent influx, and what can you speak on regarding the romanticization of Africa versus the reality? Like, what are the, some of the challenges versus the more, challenges versus reality?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'll run it back to the beginning. That there has been, in a very palpable way, a relationship between Black America specifically and West Africa from the very beginning, you know, and this is in terms of the beginning of Nigeria, the beginning, the idea of Ghana. You know, both the first president of Nigeria and Kwame Nkrumah, they were students at a Black college, right? This is not an accident. They were inspired by the stories of Marcus Garvey, about the vision of Du Bois, explicitly, right? So that was their inspiration for saying, hey, you know what? No, we want to own our own countries and forge out our own destinies. You know, there's a relationship. They learned, particularly Nkrumah, even his oration, he learned that in Black churches in Philadelphia. Right? So he came back with that. And once you have a Black country, Ghana, first independent sub-Saharan African country, you're attracting the likes of Maya Angelou. You're attracting Martin Luther King. You're attracting Malcolm X. And you are invigorating their vision. And they come back with a renewed fire. I mean, the Malcolm post-Africa is a different Malcolm. And in his vision, if you just read the founding document of the Organization of African American Unity, right, which is the political organization Malcolm X founds after his split with the nation. And Africa is at the center of his vision. And the connection. Look, it's not a civil rights issue, it's a human rights issue. These are the issues that Black Americans face, are issues that need to be addressed by Black African nations and Asian nations. So this is not new. This is actually, there was this kind of glowing amber of this relationship. And I think part of it's the connectivity, and part of it when you have, 10,000 African Americans who are experiencing Ghana in an extraordinary way and sharing with tens of millions of followers on Instagram, right? You're just adding fuel to that fire.
Right.
So it requires grit to live in a developing nation, and it requires grit to be a Black American.
I mean,
so in terms of the, they're difficult, but and they can both be extremely rewarding. I mean, as an African and also as somebody who's adopted into the African American story, when I look at Black America, I'm just gobsmacked by the output on almost every metric, right? Like, if you look at it and you just say, okay, well, these are probably the most productive groups of human beings in history, like on par with the Greeks. It's insane that on every level of human endeavor, there's excellence and attainment. And every 2 decades, they come out with some new genre of music that just moves the entire planet, right? The only area where you're seeing, we really need to address is economics.
Yeah.
I mean, just like, between you and me, you look at China, maybe the largest global power. In the last 30 years, you're not finding the kind of global icons. This is the biggest country in terms of people, right? Yeah, they can make nice stuff, and I love China, a great country, but you're not seeing the influence of the 40 million Black Americans. They just rock the world. Whether it's literature, whether it's political imagination, whether it's moral philosophy, like, it doesn't matter. And you just pick sport, entertainment, music, any genre of human endeavor, and Black Americans are at the top of those lists, right? So, but then when you're looking at economics, it's deplorable. You look at a city like Boston, Black Americans, the net worth of, I think, $400. Right, your average Black, I don't know if it's family or if it's as individuals, 400 USD, right? That's the average net worth. Now, if you were to run that back 4 generations, right? A slave in the US is about 40,000 US dollars in current terms. Right, so it's just there's stunning disparities, right?
Yeah.
Those need to be addressed. And I think that the answer to that, and a kind of long-winded response to your question about the diaspora and engagement, is this reconnection to the continent. You know, and I see it. I see it even, you know, kids label the problem child, it gets expunged from, he needs Black mentors. He needs people, you know, you take that same kid from Southside Chicago who's struggling at 11, and you put him in a boarding school in Nigeria, you know, and you've got a data scientist.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just, you know, so this is a kid who's looking for status, who's looking for recognition, who wants to assert himself in the world, but lots of avenues feel closed off.
Right. So a lot of people go to the army for that type of discipline. Instead of going to the army, you can just go to Lagos or go to Accra. Go to a boarding school in Lagos.
That's right. Your seniors will sort you out quickly.
Tell me about it. Oh my God. Having flashbacks right now.
Yeah.
No. But I wouldn't trade that experience for anything, you know?
Sure.
So it's like, it's traumatizing, but it builds character.
Exactly.
You know, exactly. It's just interesting. Now I can laugh about it. Then it wasn't so funny.
Yeah.
No, that's great. So, okay. So obviously you've been out there a while. What advice do you have, in wrapping up, for the person who either sees this or has seen the other interviews that you've done, or just, you know, interested in, okay, let me start doing my research on moving back to Africa, let's say Ghana specifically, right? And now buying a home, or, okay, let me buy this home before I move. Should I buy it after I move? Like, what steps should be taken for someone who's like, okay, you know what, I'm about to start doing some research on this?
Well, I would say come first. One thing, because Ayi Mensah Park is about 20 minutes north of the airport, the rents are actually very reasonable. So you might even want to look at renting 6 months, a year. And in terms of entrepreneurial advice, one thing that I always come back to is that, you know, an entrepreneur is somebody who typically sees a gap. You know, like, nobody can see it for you. You know what your lived experience is. You'll be able to assess the situation and say, this is what I bring to the table. These are the resources. These are the people I have access to. This is what I can do, right? So I think it's important to engage. You know, you kind of need to be here. Got a theory, just test it. I like to talk to people, you know, before I start something and say, okay, hey, Tony, what do you think? Kick the tires, you know? So, you know, and sometimes you're the only person that sees value in what you're doing, and you've got to just kind of keep focused on it, and eventually it pops. Other times, you know, the world will say, yeah, bring whatever it is you're trying to you know, introduce to the world, and we'll buy it. So I think the engagement is key. Come, experience, reach out to Ghanaians, reach out to, there's a growing African-American community that's in Ghana, and everybody's super accessible. Like, it's not difficult to find folks. I think we're all kind of invested in each other's success. So I think people will find a lot of support here. I would also say that it's not really just a question of cutting ties with the States and plopping down in Accra, right? It's a small market, right? Ghana is, in terms of economy, it's literally the size of Albuquerque, New Mexico. Right? It's like 70 billion, the GDP is about $70 billion a year.
Right.
And it's difficult to scale your business into Togo, you know, and into Ivory Coast or into Burkina, Francophone countries. You've got hard borders. It's possible, but it's not easy, right? So if your vision is diasporatic in nature, and you're looking at the global Black diaspora, and you're looking at, okay, maybe I can set up shea processing situation in Ghana, and I can compete with the body shop in Philadelphia and LA and San Francisco, like, that's a winning formula.
Right.
Right. So it's not just simply about coming and saying, okay, I'm done with America. And you can do that too. But I think it's important to say, okay, what strengths can I leverage with my US passport, with my US bank account, that could benefit both Ghana and also me and my business. You know, I mean, it's not a charity that we're asking for here. We're asking for win-win economic engagement and mutual benefit.
Yeah, trade, not aid.
Yep.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. So ask not what Africa can do for you, ask what you can do for Africa.
Well, ask what we can do for each other.
Okay.
You know, so yeah, you know, it's got to win. It's got to work for everybody. It's got to work for everybody, and that, you know,
I agree.
I'm engaging. There's actually a diaspora diplomatic mission here in Ghana with full diplomatic privileges. You know, so I've been engaging with Ambassador Bennett over the last couple of weeks. So, okay, how can we reach out and kind of leverage this? There are just so many extraordinarily influential Black, and, you know, not even just Black, people who are descendants of the continent in some way. It can be white South Africans, it can be North African Arabs who are doing amazing things. But also looking at the diaspora as the sixth region of the continent. The AU is actually designated African diaspora. So you're looking at all of the Caribbean, you're looking at Black Brazil, we're looking at Black America. This is part of the AU, right? So how do we connect with each other in a really meaningful way so that we're able to leverage all of these various really interesting positions for mutual economic benefit? So we're thinking hard about that issue. How do we connect? How do we leverage technology? You know, you know, we're looking at, could there be an app where you've got, you know, C-level executives from Fortune 500 companies that are of African descent who are all connected to, you know, 50 the Minister of Finance on 50 African nations. You know, like, what would happen if they were in communication? You know, so there's just a lot. There's
Tons
of
of possibility.
Exactly.
Oh, that's amazing. Wow, Kofi, it's been a pleasure. I definitely look forward to speaking to you again.
Well, I'm looking forward to you coming back to Accra so we can hang out.
Definitely, definitely. I'll be there, and I know where I'm going to get my house from now, without a doubt.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, brother.
No problem. Have a great rest of the day. We'll talk soon.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.